Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Today's video we're going to be looking at the chiller that I installed yesterday here in the fish room on the 500-ish gallons of water that we got going on down here. And I was going to do a separate video of an unboxing and an installation, but it doesn't even warrant it. It's that simple. I'll show you guys the whole process here real quick, just a quick rundown on it, but it just didn't justify a separate video. So I went ahead and installed this last night. I'll talk about some of the tests that I've done, talk about my particular situation, why I decided to invest the money into a chiller, and yeah, so let's go to start off with that. Why did I get a chiller? Why haven't I had one up to this point? What's going on? Well, we're getting towards the summertime, and you guys know that it gets freaking hot outside. We're not even in August yet, and it's already closer to 100 degrees, and you guys know that 100 degrees and reef tanks just don't work out. Now, it's been like that for the last 5 years. What has changed in my particular situation? Why have I decided to push forward and get one of these? Well, I live in a townhouse slash development, I guess you want to call it that, and my neighbor has had some serious issues with his central air system, and he's basically been with and without AC over the last month or so, and it's been a huge pain, and he's been forced to kind of live in the heat. That got me thinking, well, I have a generator, which we are upgrading later. You guys will see that. What's going to happen if the AC dies? I mean, what if it's for an extended period of time? What if it's for multiple days and weeks? I'm not going to be able to keep the temperature down here the way it should be, as if the power just went off for a few hours and I just had to plug in the generator and we're good to go. So that alone kind of scared me into buying a generator. Well, I did that. You guys will see that in a later video. It scared me to buy one of these chillers. Now, this is the one I got off of Bulk Reef Supply. It is the JBJ 1/3 horsepower. Now, for the amount of, I guess, degrees that I'm going to be using and the reviews that I saw, this was a pretty good size for the overall system. A lot of people with 400-ish gallons of water found that this was effective and it worked out well. Now, the recommendations say that I should go with the 1/2 horsepower chiller, but there's a couple reasons why I didn't. One, the price was an additional like $200 or $300, which I didn't want to spend. On top of that, it required more voltage, more amps to messing this all up today, to actually kick on and run. Now, this one itself uses about 6 or 7, which is about, pushes me to the max here in the fish room. I'm using a lot down here. That's, given. I mean, everything that's going on, all the lights. So this one was perfect, not only because it does work for the general water volume that I have, but also the amount of amps that I have available down here. It just squeezed in there perfectly, actually. So went ahead and picked this up, got here yesterday, installed it. So let's talk about the installation. As you guys know, I run a manifold pretty much here. It's just a built-in manifold in the sump, came with the Geo sump, and never mind this went to a UV that I no longer have. So I went ahead and decided to kind of bypass my refugium a little bit. So I took the outlet for the refugium, which usually came around, it went into here, just decided to bypass that, go to the inlet on the chiller, and then of course it comes out and then goes right back into the refugium. Now, the reason why I did this, because I was thinking about actually putting it in line here with the underneath of my my grow out system here. I was just going to put it down here and have it kind of fed into the PVC, but I decided to do this because it was a little bit easier and I didn't have to worry about cooling one tank more than the other. Now, what happens is the water comes through, obviously goes through into the chiller, then back into the refugium. Now, it has to go through the manifold again, and then through all of the systems or all of the tanks, and then eventually it will come back down into the yeah, I gotta change out some filter socks, back into the sump, and then through the temperature probe. So it has to go and chill all of the tanks before it finally shows a temperature drop. So that's good. That way I'm not accidentally chilling one tank more than the other, and I don't have to worry about that issue. Now, when I turn this on, I set the default to 79 degrees, which I'll show you guys here in a second. We'll also do some temperature readings and turn it on and all that good stuff. But I set the default to 79 degrees because that's what I wanted it to be. Now, I have it set up that on the Apex chiller, the Apex chiller, whatever, the switch itself, when we get to 80 degrees on the Apex, it will kick on the chiller, which then takes, once the power's put to the chiller from the Apex, it takes about 3 minutes for it to kick on, and then it will chill the tank down to 79 degrees. At that point, it will cut power to the chiller, and things will just kind of continue on and on. Now, I did a little test yesterday, started at 79.4 degrees, turned on the chiller, took about, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes for it to get down to about 79 degrees. So I'm okay with it taking a little bit longer than that, actually, because that way I don't have to worry about it chilling the tank too quickly. But that's things that we can look at in the future once we start working with it a little bit more. If I need to slow the flow rate, you know, whatever I got to do to actually chill a little bit slower. I don't need it dropping 1 degree within, you know, an hour or so, because I think that's a little too much. But if we can extend it to 2 or 3 hours, I'm okay with that. So anyway, let's go ahead and yeah, let's go ahead and turn on the chiller, and then I'll show you guys kind of you know, when it kicks on, what it sounds like, all that good stuff. And we'll take some temperature readings. I'll show you what the temperature of the water going into the chiller and what it is coming out. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're over here at the Apex real quick. I'm going to show you guys kind of my profile. So find my mouse here. So we're at the chiller. Obviously named chiller. Fallback is off. We're using my 300 temp probe. And then we have the temperature set when it turns on at 80, and of course when it turns off at 79. Now, I was thinking if once I go through a full test of how long it actually takes to go from 80, so when it eventually does hit 80 in here, which it will here shortly, I kind of turned up the AC just to kind of save some electricity. And once it hits 80 in here, we'll see how long it takes to get down to 79, and then kind of see what the temperature is after the chiller turns off. So that means, you know, the chiller is cooling water, right? So it's cooling it, and then it goes into all the tanks, and then it takes time for that water to get over to the probe to affect the temperature. Now, I want to see if it turns off at 79, what does the temperature actually end up at once it turns off? So we'll see. If I find that if it turns off at 79 and then the temperature actually drops to like 78.5 or something like that, obviously that's too big of a fluctuation. I don't want that. So I might have it so it turns off at maybe, you know, 79.4 or something, and then that little drop that's left will just kind of bring it down to 79. So we'll see. We'll play it by ear, and I guess we can call it that, visibility, and we'll just have to do a little bit more test to kind of see what happens. But that's the setup for the Apex. Okay, so I just turned on the chiller, and you guys will see right off the bat that it says 82.2 degrees, the water that's going through the chiller right now. And I'm telling you, that is not correct. I verified with the HANA temperature probe, which I'll show you guys here in a second, and I also verified it with my Apex, and then I have just some random probes around here, and nothing's even close to that. So I don't know if this needs to be calibrated. I didn't see anything in the directions, and I will admit I kind of skimmed through the directions, so maybe it needs to be calibrated. But in my case, it really doesn't matter what the temperature of this says, because I'm going off the pH, or the temperature probe on the Apex. So the Apex is going to control when this thing turns on and off. So I'm not too worried about what this display says. But I will admit, when it first popped up, I'm like, no way. No way is my tank over 82 degrees. That's crazy. But anyway, so as you can see, the light is blinking. It just turned it on, so it takes about 3 minutes of this blinking. I guess that's it getting ready to turn on. And then it will kick on. You probably hear some clacking from my fan, because it is definitely a pure 7 amps automatically once it kicks on, and then we'll start chilling. So we'll come back after it kicks on. Okay, so you guys heard that kick on. It's not that loud given everything going on down here, but if you had this in your living room, it would probably be a little louder than what you're looking for. You're definitely going to want to put it in a cabinet, somewhere where you can hide or block some of that noise. But anyway, we're going to take some temperature readings on the main display tank. Now, one thing that I have noticed, it's going up here while we're testing, the Apex currently says 79.6. So we're going to see what we got going on up here. And one thing I did notice is that the smaller tanks, like the grow-out tanks and the shallow reef, tend to cool down a little bit quicker than the main display, but that's given the fact that it's a much larger water volume in that display tank. So that's the only issue, is that those tanks do tend to chill down a little bit faster, but thankfully everything is mixing. So right now on the main display, it seems to be stuck around 79.8, 79.9. So we're a little off on the Apex, nothing crazy. So let's go ahead and get down here, and I'll show you guys what the temperature coming out of the chiller is. So the output is right here, so you guys can see. So we'll stick the probe right there, and we'll kind of see what we got going on. Again, it's been on for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes so far. So looking at 77.1 coming out. So, you know, a 2 degree difference coming out of the chiller, which is totally fine by me. Now, I wonder if I turn the flow down. So let's go and cut the flow down a little bit and see if the temperature increases or it gets warmer. So we're going to cut it down a little bit. Right now I do have about the recommended amount of flow through it, and then I had a little bit extra. So we'll see what happens. Does it get colder with less flow? Which I'm assuming it does, has more time to chill. So let's see. A little bit. So the water obviously is taking longer to get through, and of course it'd be colder. So if you, I guess if you wanted to, I got to see what kind of how that works out. With less flow means less water is getting into the system, even though it's colder. Does the system cool down faster, or does more flow at a higher temperature still chill the tank faster? That's something I'm gonna have to test out and see. But it's really not crazy difference. But I like more flow. And we're at 75. Man, that is going down pretty quick. It's moving. Let's see. As soon as I said there wasn't a crazy difference, it's definitely moving now. So 75. So 2 degrees colder than what I had before. So technically 4 degrees colder than the main display. And again, less flow, colder. Will it drop the temperature and the overall water volume faster or slower? Gonna have to test that out and see. But anyways, I'm putting it back to what it originally was because I like the higher flow. The higher flow allows it to keep the detritus and all sorts of stuff out of the unit itself. Even though I have, filter socks and sponge filter and stuff, I still want to remove any detritus out of this, so I don't have to back flush it very often. So, yeah. So far, I'm pretty happy with it, and it definitely does the job. I mean, we're dropping down right now. I'll show you guys again. About 10 minutes, we went from 79.6 to 79.5, which, we're talking 1/10 of a degree, but you know me, I'm all anal about stuff like that. But overall, I will admit, I'm pretty happy with the unit, and I feel better. I think it's more of a security thing for me, knowing that, hey, if the power goes out, I can connect this, or just connect my whole Apex to the new generator. It's got 30 amps. I can run pretty much my whole system, for the exception of some lights, which I'll keep off anyways, and I can just run my entire system and know that regardless if my house decides to turn back on and I have AC or not, I'm going to be okay. And it's that peace of mind that has really kind of put me over the edge when it comes to buying one of these. It's just knowing that everything's going to be okay, or at least your chances of everything being okay are much higher when you have this, these systems in place. So anyway, I think that's about it for the video. We're definitely moving on there. It's a little longer than it has to be, but yeah, so next week I'll be showing you the new generator. I decided to go with one with an inverter. Again, we're going to be connecting from one 30 amp plug down to 3 15 amps, which, or technically they can be 15 amps, and we'll be able to power the entire fish room, or at least, well, the essentials, including the chiller, without any worries. So yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys can find some charts, or if you've actually tested if you have the lower flow with the colder temperature versus the higher flow with a higher temperature, on how fast the tank will cool down. Right now I'm going to keep it at the higher flow, and I will do the test as we move forward to kind of see how it works out. But that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you later. Peace.